All right, so Chapter 6, Lesson 3 is Algebra, and it's variables and expressions, okay? So first thing I want you to do is I want you to write your vocabulary. It says here the algebra is the language of symbols, including variables, okay? A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, used to represent a number. Alright, so it says the height of the triangle shown can be found using the expression 48 divided by b, where b is the base of the triangle. We want to find the height of the triangle. So, it says here that the height, the height can be found using 48 divided by b, okay? So, when we solve this problem, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down the expression that they give us, okay? So here we're going to write down the expression 48 divided by b. And now we're going to substitute the value for the base. So the value for the base is 8. So we're going to substitute 8 in for b. So we have 48 divided by 8, and 48 divided by 8, of course, is 6. So the height is 6 feet. So here, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to evaluate one-step expressions. Please make sure that you write down your heading, evaluate one-step expressions. And algebraic expressions contain at least one variable and at least one operation. Also, please make sure you write down that definition. Algebraic expressions contain at least one variable and at least one operation. For example, here we have n plus 2. n plus 2 is an algebraic expression because it has a variable and it has at least one operation. It has the addition. So n plus 2 is an algebraic expression. All right, so the letter x is often used as a variable. To avoid confusion with the symbol x for multiplication, there are other ways to show the multiplication. And you guys have seen me use these other ways before, right? You've seen me use the dot for multiplication. The dot means multiply, okay? So 5 times x, 5 dot x. That means multiply. Here we have the parentheses. You've seen me use those too, right? So whenever you have 5 in the parentheses, another number, that means 5 times x. And then also here, this is one that you haven't seen me use, okay? Here, when there's no symbol in between, and you have them scrunched together, the 5, the number and the variable scrunched together, that means 5 times x. Is everybody clear? So here it says the variables in an expression can be replaced with any number, okay? Because the variable represents a number, okay? Once the variables have been replaced, then you can evaluate or find the value of the algebraic expression. Please make sure you write that down. You can evaluate or find the value of the algebraic expression. In other words, evaluate, just so you can remember, evaluate means to substitute and simplify. Okay, let's write that down. So, for example 1, it says evaluate 16 plus b if b is equal to 25. Now here, wherever there is a b, we're going to substitute in the 25. So wherever there's a b, we're going to substitute in 25. So here we have 16 plus 25, and then you just add it together, you get 41. Now, please notice that the way they show the work in the book is not the way I expect to see your work, okay? See this part right here, this part, all of this right here, I expect to see right underneath your original problem. Is everybody clear with that? Okay? So for example 2, it says evaluate x minus y if x is equal to 64 and y is equal to 27. So wherever there's an x, we're going to put 64, and wherever there's a y, we're going to put 27. So 64 minus 27 is 37. And it's as simple as that. You can also evaluate with fractions. Okay, so here we want to evaluate 6x, or 6 times x. So wherever there's an x, we're going to put 1/2. So this says 6 times 1/2. Okay, so 6 times 1/2, of course, is 3. So let's do these guided problems. When you do your guided problems, please make sure you write the instruction. Okay, so here we want to evaluate each expression if A is equal to 6, B is equal to 4, and C is equal to 1/3. I will wait while you write that down. So for example A, for problem A, it says A plus 8. So you're going to write your original problem. And then we will substitute wherever there's an A. What are we going to put in? 6. Very good. So here, you're going to write the original problem, and then you're going to write 6 plus 8. And of course, 6 plus 8 is 14. And if you are showing your work correctly, you will again see your inverted triangle. Is everybody clear? All right. So what am I going to put in for A minus B? 6 minus 4. Very good. So here we've got 6 minus 4, and of course 6 minus 4 is 2. And again, there is your inverted triangle. You don't have to draw the triangle, okay? That is just there so that you know that you're showing your work correctly. What am I going to put in for C? 6 times 4. Very good. So here we're going to substitute in the 6 times the 4, and of course 6 times 4 is 24. Everybody good? All right, do letter D. So what are we going to put in for 9C?
9
times 1/3. Very good. So 9 times 1/3, that's what we get right here. And then, of course, we can simplify before we multiply, and we end up with 3 over 1, or just 3. So now we're going to evaluate multi-step expressions. Please make sure you write your heading. We're going to evaluate multi-step expressions. To evaluate multi-step expressions, we're going to replace each variable with the correct value, and then we're going to follow our order of operations. You don't have to write that entire sentence. You can just write substitute, simplified, then follow order of operations. All right. So, rather than writing that whole sentence, you can write substitute and simplify following order of operations. Example 4 says evaluate 5t plus 4 if t is equal to 3. Okay? So here, remember 5t means 5 times t, right? Now, wherever there's a t, we're going to substitute in 3. Okay? And once again, you guys, don't forget, when you show your work, all of this should be right underneath your original expression, okay? So we're going to substitute in a 3 for t, and we end up with 5 times 3 plus 4, and then we're going to use our order of operations. So we're going to do the multiplication first, 5 times 3, and then we get 15. Then we add 4, and we end up with 19. Is everybody clear? All right, very good. All right, so for example 5, it says evaluate 4x squared if x is equal to 1/8. Now remember, 4x squared, that means, 4 times the quantity x squared. So wherever there's an x, we're going to put 1/8, right? So there's our 1/8. And now, using our order of operations, what am I going to evaluate first?
4 times
We're going to do the exponents. Remember, PEMDAS tells me that we have to do the exponents first, right? Because this parentheses, is that parentheses really a grouping symbol? No, that's just separating the exponents. Does everybody see that? So here, 1/8 squared is 1/64. And then, what do I like for you to do before you multiply? I like for you to simplify, right? So here, 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 64 divided by 4 is 16. And then we can multiply it straight across, and we get 1/16. All right, so for example 6, we want to evaluate 10a, or 10 times a, plus 7 if a is equal to 1/5. So wherever there's an a, we're going to put 1/5. Okay? So we have 10 times a, so we have 10 times 1/5. And now, according to our orders of operation, we're going to do our multiplication first. So 10 times 1/5, of course, is 2. And we have 2 plus 7, which is 9. And it's as simple as that. All right, so for the got it problem, we want to evaluate each expression if d is equal to 12 and e is equal to 1/3. Make sure you write your instructions. Then we're going to write our original problem, and then we will substitute and simplify. Okay? So 2d minus 5 means 2 times d. Very good. Minus 5. So when we substitute, we have 2 times d, which is 12, minus 5. Does everybody see I use the parentheses for multiplication here, right? So 2 times 12 is 24, minus 5 is 19. Very good. How about letter F?
36.
What am I going to write? We don't go, remember, we don't go straight to the answer. What am I going to put
No,
in
I'm
here?
not saying the answer.
So, what are we going to put in for D? 12. Okay? So, we're going to write 50 minus 3 times 12. Clear? Order of operations tells me what am I going to do first? We're going to do the multiplication. And this is where you're going to get your 36, right? So we have 50 minus 36, which is equal to
14.
very good. And again, you guys, if you are showing your work correctly, what do you see?
The triangle.
Your inverted triangle. You got it? Do letter G. So here, with 9 times e squared, we're going to put 1/3 in for e. So we end up with 9 times 1/3 quantity squared. Now that 1/3 squared, that means 1 squared over 3 squared, so that's 1/9, right? And so we end up with 9 times 1/9. Simplify by before we multiply, and we end up with 1. All right, example 7 says Khalil is wrapping a gift for his brother's birthday. The box has side lengths that are 1 foot. We're sorry, 1/2 a foot. Use the expression 6s squared, where s represents the length of a side, to find the surface area of the box he is wrapping. Write your answer in square feet. Now, of course, surface area just means the area on the outside of the figure, right? Area on the surface. So, we want to use the 6s squared, okay, to find the surface area of the entire cube. So, we have 6s squared. What are we going to put in for s? 1/2. Very good. So 1/2 goes in for the s, and we're going to square that. So 1/2 squared is equal to 1/4, right? So we end up with 6 times 1/4, And of course, before we multiply, we're going to simplify. And I end up with 3/2. And of course, 3/2, we can change that back to 1.5 feet squared.